tea break and lunch. I'm back again, and so before we start the panel, we have only 30 minutes left. I'm going to do a reintroduction of myself. My name is Yvonne. I started an entrepreneurship club, inter-tertiary entrepreneurship club, to help peer mentoring between aspiring entrepreneurs. And now currently I run an e-commerce business that's serving 2 different markets in Singapore and Indonesia. I'm very honored over it to have mentors and people who are seasoned entrepreneurs, veterans in the industry, to tell us about how their mentoring experience were like and how is it that mentees like me can optimize their advice and their time. So without further ado, maybe Colin, you can give your introduction about yourself first.
Thank you very much. Great to see you all here, and I'm glad I got my sunglasses on because that's a very bright spotlight right there. My life in 20 seconds. Actually, I've had 5 different startups, one of which has been successful, so you can work out the percentage success rate. I was first in Singapore in 1993 and joined a company which was a publishing company which was hit by the internet tsunami at that time. I went through the whole .com, .bomb thing, and we created several spin-offs. So that was my first introduction to startups, but also to mentorship, because I had a very strong mentor in my company president at the time who invested in what was an offshoot startup company. So from that, 20 years later, still in Singapore, having had a mobile company which was started in 2002, called iPop. We did the first Singapore Idol SMS voting. Don't know if you remember that. You're all probably too young. But still, never mind. That's when SMS was sexy. We sold the company last year to a PLC from London called Internet Q, which is capitalized at about 100 million sterling, depending on the stock price. So it's a big boy, and they bought us for our Asian connections, Asian platform. It's been an exciting ride, and still a lot to learn.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Colin. How about you, Nati?
Hi, I'm Nati Sang. I'm from the States. I guess my first entrepreneurial experience was when I was in 3rd grade. And like when kids, they make those like paper ninja stars out of paper, they fold it up and stuff. Yeah, I figured out that people really like, all the little boys, they really like that. So I made a business where I started folding paper and selling it to the kids around the playground. After that, that was it. I was also in the .com. I was a .com entrepreneur in Silicon Valley. I also went through the .bomb. Recently, nowadays I live in Bangkok. Let's see. I'm a guest professor and a business mentor for Thammasat University. Oh yeah, I also work at Mercatus Capital. I'm the managing director for Thailand. Yeah, there you go.
So you know who you need to talk to if you want to go into Thailand. Yes, Nicholas, please.
Yep. Hi. I'm Nicholas Chan. I started my business about half my life ago. I've been doing most businesses in tech, some in trading, some in location-based services. These days, I still do run Asion Capital. I also still run my other maritime technology firm, which provides solutions very specific solutions towards the maritime sector, and some other new ventures which are more specific towards private security. So yeah. That's just about me in a nutshell.
So is Asion Capital in Singapore or in Singapore in?
Yeah, Asion Capital is Singapore. It's based in Singapore. And we're doing a bit of work over in Malaysia and Indonesia these days too.
Great, thank you, Nicholas. So how we're going to kick off this panel is simple. The title of this panel is Optimizing Mentors and Investors and Succeeding Like Them. So one of the organizers told us how this panel came about was because they received a lot of feedback about how mentors were talking about their mentees not being active enough in asking them for help and getting their advice. Whereas on the other hand, I'm sure startups that are here also feel that sometimes it's difficult to approach the mentors because you don't know what to ask. And there's always this little fear of maybe embarrassing yourself if you're asking the wrong questions. You don't know how to utilize the mentors that you have. And that's what this panel is for about. So maybe you guys can share with us some of your mentoring experiences. Have you met any? What are your mentees like? Maybe are they passive? Are they active? Have you met with this more passive startups before?
Well, yes, of course. I mean, like when you work with a whole lot of people, you're going to meet a lot. Sometimes you meet aggressive people, but especially here, I find, at least in Thailand and around Asia, people tend to be a little bit more passive. They seem to be like, well, it takes a little bit more to tease them out of their shell. So, yeah, of course. But
Is it an Asian thing? Is it just how the way we were brought up?
Well, I mean, like, okay, I mean, I grew up in the States where we're taught like critical thinking skills and to ask a lot of questions, but I find like here in Asia, I mean, we grew up, like people grow up under a Confucian education system. So we're sort of like, okay, we expect teacher to tell us what they have in mind, and then we memorize what the teacher says, and then we parrot it back to them, and then we get our A. I mean, that's kind of the Confucian way. But, you know, that doesn't mean that kids can't think. But at the same time, it's like, well, okay, they can think. You just gotta give them the time and give them the opportunity to do so. But you have to be a bit more patient.
Okay. What about you, Nicholas? You shared some of your thoughts before. So what were your experiences mentoring like?
I'm a bit more picky with the mentees I actually have. I tend to go and see that there's a lot of assumptions that a mentor is expected to go and give everything to the mentee. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, okay, sorry.
So everyone can hear you.
Yeah, so the experience I had is that many of the mentees I actually worked with, or those that wanted to work with me, expected a lot. They said that, look, you must give this to me, you must do this for me, you have to give me this customer. If not, you are actually like, you're a bad mentor. And the thing is that it's a point where you sometimes see some of these people believing that a mentor is like a crutch. And it becomes quite disturbing. I mean, there's also good mentees which we have, which are able to listen, able to question, and also are able to recognize that, look, this guy is giving you his time, his connections, his money sometimes, and be grateful for that and recognize the fact that you are trying to go and help this person as a partner, not as a charity case or not as like an underling. Yeah, so that's the kind, I mean, you get all kinds.
And how did Colin, you pick your mentees? What are your experiences?
Well, it's kind of organic for me actually at the moment. So there's a few that I've spoken to and helped, and I don't have a formal process for it. I don't feel a formal connection. What I'm doing is I'm offering my advice, my experience, all of those things which Nicholas has mentioned, in an organic way. Now people can take advantage of that. They can latch on to certain parts of that, or not. Some of them have done so, and some of them I haven't heard of for a long time.
Yeah, but so some of them whom you've not heard of for a long time, it may not be the case that they're giving up their business. Maybe they don't know what they don't know, and I'm not sure how to approach you guys about it.
Right? Yeah, I've got a whole series of emails which say why they are no longer following that or pursuing that or taking that forward. And I accept that, understand that. Even if I thought the original idea was fantastic and that they should turn it into a business, they've got many other reasons why they're deflected from that, even to the point of exams, studies, finals, and effectively they're going to have to start again when they graduate, start from scratch, because that momentum is now gone.
Okay.
So it's a disappointment to see that peter out. Okay. So I think, as I say, it's very organic, and you have to go with the flow on that. It's not so much people not knowing what to ask or not knowing what they should be doing. They're just distracted by other challenges right now.
Okay.
In that specific case.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'll tell you my approach to mentorship. Okay. And I view mentorship as sort of like, well, I believe in the Gandalf the Grey style of mentorship. So, you have to be sort of like Gandalf the Grey. You're going to meet people, they don't really know what they're doing. You're meeting new entrepreneurs, they're kind of finding their way in the world, and it's sort of like, well, they just need some guidance. So like, you have to be like Gandalf the Grey, who's like, okay, well, look, you don't know what you're doing. Here, why don't I show you the way? Yeah? Why don't I try to lead you to a certain point? And while I'm doing this, I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to say, okay, well, look, Frodo, you don't know how to destroy the ring. You're a dumbass. I'm not going to say that. Yeah? What I want to say is, what I want to try to do for them is like, okay, well, here, let me take you, let me guide you. Yeah? You make the decisions, but, I'm here to help you. Yeah? And so, you have to be powerful, but at the same time, you have to be kind and caring. But when the chips are down and like the entrepreneur really needs some help, it's sort of like Gandalf is like, look, there's this big Balrog coming along. And then you have to say, well, okay, I'm going to plant my staff into the bridge of Khazad-dûm and say, yeah, you shall not pass. I have to stick up for the people that are looking up to me as a mentor. And that is kind of what a mentor should be like, at least in my opinion.
That's awesome. And thank you for sharing. And Nicholas, I know that your mentorship style has been inspired by your mentors prior. Can you share a little bit about that with the audience?
Okay, my own mentorship journey has been a little different. I got to know my first mentor when I was 14. He's the CEO of Simlim Group, which owned a bank, owned a VC firm, and what have you. He was very much like what Nati said. He was there for me. He didn't walk the path for me. He was just to say, okay, look, if you want to try this, I'm going to give you my feedback. And if you want to try it, go ahead. But before, hey, look, you can always ask me again. But I'll just say, I told you so. So can you now please start to listen a bit more and stop acting like an ass? So that was pretty much the style. I mean, it's a matter of that sometimes when we are so young, we think that we are so great, we think our ideas are superb, that our ego gets in our way. So some of my mentor comes in to actually trim that ego down and tell you, look, and you should probably listen a bit more. And that's why we have like 2 ears and 1 mouth.
Well, what do you mean by getting the ego in the way? What do you mean by
Too many startups wise, right, that we see always believe that, because I saw this concept in TechCrunch, I saw this over in Silicon Valley, it should work here, and I know it'll work, and I'll tell you it'll work. And the basis that, right, this is good confidence, but when it comes to the point that you're incapable of listening and saying that, hey, look, maybe my mentor is saying something right, because he reflected that the way the markets are operating here don't work in this premise. Maybe he does have some sense. I mean, he has been working in this sector and these areas for years. There should be something I can get out of it. It's like Bruce Lee's statement. He's saying that, look, take in what's good, discard what's bad. And that's the basis that the mentee should remember. They must be able to go and listen, accept it first, dwell over about it, and then from there, right, think, is it useful? If it's useful, keep it. If it's not, drop it. Okay. But remember, in the end, it's still personal responsibility on whether you want to keep it, use it, or dump it.
So, on this note, so is it to say that mentors are right all the time, and it's not so right for startups to say, yeah, I got what you mean, but I'm still going to try it my way. I'm sure some of your startups do that, right? Share some of your feelings. You'll be like, dang, this startup just refuses to listen to me. Or what's your take on this, Miles?
Well, I think from my perspective, you offer advice, you offer it as a committed mentor, but at the end of the day, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Yes.
If it wants to drink in another place, then you have to accept that. So you have to be big enough to take that. I think most of us are big enough and ugly enough to take rejection. And sometimes boneheadedness and commitment to a cause, even what seems like a lost cause, can eventually turn into something great, amazing, outstanding, beyond even we thought what it might achieve. So you can't predict the outcome, even if it's the complete opposite direction of the advice you've given, it still might work out in some way, shape or form. So at this late stage in my career, I think philosophically I'm quite open and I see lots of different outcomes. I will be quite passionate in my advice and what I think will work. But I'm in the 45-year-old generation, and if I'm helping a 20-something generation, I may still be slightly out of tune.
Okay, thank you. And what about you, Nati?
Your question was really good in that, okay, can mentors be wrong? And the answer is, yeah, they can. Like, no one is perfect, and no one is great at everything. We have to also realize our limitations. As a mentor, you kind of gotta leave the ego behind. You gotta go, okay, look. And also, you have to push your mentees. You have to push them to actually try to prove you wrong as well. I mean, like, look, okay, well, you think this way, maybe it's that, I don't think that's going to work, but hey, why don't you prove me wrong? Because wouldn't it be great if they proved you wrong?
That'd be awesome.
Because, like, look, because I'm here to learn as well. So if they can show that, okay, well, I have a different business model, I did a completely different way, I go, oh, and it worked? That's really cool. And that's how we see innovation come about. It's not from us telling them what they should not do. It should be, okay, we should be trying to push people and push their boundaries. That's what that's what a good mentor should be doing.
And Nicholas, your point of view, have you had mentees who did not listen to what you said and tried their way, and you were happy with their determination?
Answering the question, yes, there will definitely be many mentees that will do things their way, and that's fine. I'll just change the answer a little bit. I had my other mentor. He's an engineer, a professional engineer. He's about 70 plus about now already, and he's a very, very, very respected person in Singapore. when I spoke to him last time, I mean, I was something like a green person, right, when it comes to engineering. But I spoke to him about engineering concepts, which I didn't really understand, and asked him, why is this not possible? Okay, this guy was about, at that point in time, he was about almost late 68 or 70 already. And he told me, he said, okay, I think what you said makes sense. And the thing is that actually left a great impact on myself and what I also want to tell my startups. Because, like, look, if a 68-year-old white hair man can tell me that maybe you're right, and what you said made sense because I never thought about it this way, because it's something which I didn't need to apply this way, and I would like to think about it. That's what my startups should also take, that same message. They should think, and if they think they're so great and they're smarter than me, then by all means, do it the way you want, and if you fall, well, I'll probably still be there, but I'll just say, well, you did it your way you want, and you disregarded without listening. Yeah.
So maybe giving due consideration to valuable advice is the best thing, not just putting them off, right? So now, this is really interesting. One of the key things that Nati Yu said was that mentors also need to put down their ego in listening to what the mentees has to say. Now, we can't say that some of the mentors we met may not have the same philosophy, and some of the startups over here have met different kind of mentors and mentorship style. How do we go about finding the best mentor and mentee match?
Well, first of all, you got to talk to people about your ideas. I mean, and you have to share it with a whole bunch of people. I mean, you can't just go to one guy and go, I want you to be my mentor. Yeah? And what happens, and as I said earlier, no one is perfect in everything. So, look, let's say you go to this guy, he's really great at finance. Okay, brilliant. So he's going to help you out with the finance part. But what happens when your business has a problem when it comes to marketing? What are you going to do? So it's sort of like, well, look, you make it sound like, okay, teams can only choose one mentor. And really, it's sort of like, well, look, you need to kind of go to a whole bunch of different people to help you out. If you look at it this way, I mean, entrepreneurship is kind of like a team sport. It's not something like one guy is going to be doing. So it kind of behooves us to kind of try and find as many team players as possible. So in terms of mentors, it's like, how do we find them? The best match? Well, look, you just got to talk to people. Yeah, talk to as many people as possible, and you got to choose people that have a lot of different specializations.
So would you say that startups, we are also empowered to choose the mentors that we think will benefit us most and the best chemistry fit, right? Early on, we had this conversation outside also, that sometimes it's not necessarily that you are picky about the mentees that you want to mentor, but you haven't really found that good fit.
Well, it's also important that, look, you have to have a sort of emotional connection to them as well. I mean, look, when you find a mentor, it's a mentor. It's not a consultant.
Yes.
Yeah? So you don't want a consultant as a mentor. You want someone who actually cares about you. And so, as a mentor, it's like, yeah, it's pretty important. You have to have some emotional investment into these people as well. So if you're finding people out there who you're asking to be mentors, and they're kind of coming off as more like consultants, and they don't really care about you, maybe you should consider finding someone else to help you, someone who actually does care.
Okay. So how do you want to add on something?
No, I'm quite interested in the way that advisors are brought in, a board of advisors for startups, because it seems quite a heavy-duty bureaucracy for something that needs to be nimble and fast-moving, but it's also a protective shield, right? So you've got all these different aspects covered with your board of advisors. But then the dynamics become complicated because you keep asking for advice and asking for advice and asking for advice, and you lose your own mind as an entrepreneur to a point where you say, I've got to trust that decision because he's an expert in this. But actually it might be whatever you're driving for doesn't really need that advice. You actually have to learn it for yourself. There's so much learning for yourself to be done as an entrepreneur. After 20 years, I can say I know just about everything about startup to mature SME, but I still know nothing about finance. I just brought professional skills to do that. So.
And earlier on, we were talking outside that there are some. Do you think there's a limit to how many startups a person can mentor?
Me personally, yeah, I've got 2 kids and I've got a family, so I haven't got that much time to offer. But I would wish to spend time with a very small group of startups. So I would say, for me personally, 3. 2, 3 at the moment would be about as much as I could offer representatively a decent amount of time. For professionals who might have more time or a larger capacity for that, then of course they can do more. But I would wish to spend more time with less.
And I guess that's the same philosophy that Nicholas, you have also, right?
Yes, I believe that if we want to again give our best to this person to help him or her grow his company to become something successful, you have to give quality time. And you can't afford to go and say, look, I'm going to give 1 hour to like 10 startups every week. It's going to be like very diluted. So my number is the same as him, it's about 2 to 3. So far wise, I think that's a good balance that I can balance with my own other commitments, family as well as work. So yep, that's a personal number for me, about 3 to 4. I actually went up to 4 before, but 3 is a better number.
Okay.
Well, I'm a little bit different because I feel that you should try to help as many people as possible. And yes, I mean, people deserve time, and you need to have a lot of face time. But it depends on what stage the entrepreneur is in. I mean, as a mentor, it's like, okay, in the beginning, yes, you kind of have to show them the ropes a lot because they don't know that much. But later on, you gotta let the kid walk on his own. Yeah.
Yes.
So when they get to a point where okay, they can start walking, it's sort of like, okay, look, go ahead and walk. I'm not going to be holding your hand the whole entire time. And then I can start helping other people as well. And pretty soon, this person I let walking, then I can turn around and say, oh, wow, he's actually running now. And, it makes me feel pretty good as a mentor. So it's sort of like, well, yes, the people who I had to spend a lot of time with, there's only a few. But that doesn't mean that I don't have a whole bunch of mentees that I'm actually looking after. I just keep tabs on them now and then.
Nice. Okay. So now let's help the audience and startups in this conference hall understand what is your ideal mentee like? How often do they contact you? What's their attitude? Let us have an idea of how is it that we should approach you guys so that we can optimize you and our mentors.
You want to take that first?
Well, for me, it's very early stages. I've exited my company, more or less, so it's time for me to spend a little more outside, having coffee, physically meeting, spending time. I think, as I have done previously, coffee meetings are great, good for catch-up, good for general conversation, informal, think about what the business state is, offer some advice, and then go back on work on specific problems with the network you have, should it arise. So I think that's my personal approach would be, yeah.
So is it okay to
Coffee
call
meets.
you every hour and say, hey, I have this business decision to make, can you help me?
I'm pretty open, so I would never, cut it off unless I'm on stage.
You guys know who to look for afterwards. Okay, Natty.
And yeah, I mean, I always make it a promise that, okay, please contact me, email me as much as you like. I don't promise to get back to you right away, but I always promise to get back to them. And so you ask, like, what makes for an ideal mentee? And the ideal mentee to me is someone who actually does what they say. They put their money where their mouth is. Because there's so many people in this world, all they do is talk. And they don't do anything. And for me, it's like, okay, I can spend meeting after meeting after meeting with people that I mentor, but if they don't try to actually do anything, then there's something going on, there's something going wrong. And so the ideal mentee is like, okay, not only can they talk and they have a good brain, but they actually do what they say. They actually try. Even if they fail, that's okay. We can learn from failure. But as long as you just try and do something, to me, that's the perfect mentee.
Great. And Nicholas.
My perfect mentee will be someone that's driven, someone who's willing to go and ask questions. You'd be surprised how many people actually don't want to ask questions. They rather want you to give them answers.
We'll test that in a while.
Perhaps. That person should probably be also able, as I said, to execute. I think the most important thing is that we see too many people nowadays mistaking knowledge for wisdom. They read a lot, they talk a lot, they share a lot, but they don't know anything, they don't try anything. They're cowards. So having someone who has the courage to say, look, I'm going to go and ask, let's say, Nicholas something, and it might not be actually something very sane, but I've Googled it already, I did read a book, but I can't get an answer, so I'm going to ask him. And I'm going to be asking him something which is like saying, look, Nick, I need to go find a manufacturer of this glass cup. I know that they manufacture this in 3 other countries, but I need to know where do we find it in Singapore. That is a good question. So having a person that actually can think critically and know what he or she wants, right, is actually what makes a good mentee. The second thing of all is integrity, of course. Too many times they often just say, oh, I'll say this, oh, I'll do this, oh, I'll go there, but they don't do it. It's so common where someone thinks that it's just a matter of, oh, my mentor will be there, it's okay, that's fine. It doesn't matter, I message him, I say, I'll see him for lunch, but I don't turn up, that's fine. Yeah, so these type of things happen, and they happen very often in today's generation. And these are things which I say that, yeah, if they have integrity, the rest will fall in place.
So, aspiring entrepreneurs in the audience, now you know from the mentor's perspective what they do expect from you. And as a startup myself, I find myself previously not taking the initiative to contact my mentors, but in actual fact, they want you to contact them, and it's fine to contact them. They don't laugh at you behind your back, laughing at your failure. They don't, you know. Look at these people over here. Now let's put Nicholas' comment to the test. He says that we don't ask enough questions, and we saw that as a proof last panel. Now I'm going to open up the floor for questions again. I'm sure some of you guys have important questions that you want to ask these great mentors over here. So can we see if there's anyone want to ask anything? Hi. I can't really see you. I can just stand up and scream your question.
Hello.
Let everyone know who you're addressing the question to, maybe.
I'm actually addressing to all 3 of them. I want to ask, is it okay to have more than one mentor?
I know, Nati, you have something to say about this also earlier. Yeah?
Can you have more than one mentor? Is that the question?
Is it good to have more than one mentor?
Is it good to have more than one mentor?
Or is it better to just
Well,
have one?
well, I'll tell you, it depends. Yeah? For some people, yes, having only one mentor is the right thing. For some people, okay, they need a whole bunch of different people to be their mentors. It really depends on the entrepreneur. Because look, there's not one mold for entrepreneurs. They come in many different flavors. So it's like, okay, well, if you're asked, like, basically, you are asking, should you have more than one mentor? I have to ask you, what do you feel?
Can I help him with his question? Maybe what he's trying to ask is, what if your mentors don't agree with one another? If you have more than one mentor, if you give conflicting mentors advice, what happens then? But is that what you want to ask? Maybe that is the question, right?
I see. Yes, we come across this problem a lot too. Because okay, this person says this, and this person says this, and this person says this. Who do I listen to?
Yes.
And here's the thing, yeah? You're an entrepreneur. Yeah? It's your job to take in the advice of the people around you. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to make the decision. It's sort of like, I believe it's sort of like being Captain Kirk on the Star Trek, on the Starship Enterprise. Yeah, Captain Kirk, he has a lot of crew. Yeah, he has Mr. Spock, he has Scotty, he has even Bones, and they all like tell him all these different things. At the end of the day, look, the entrepreneur is the captain of the ship. He's Captain Kirk. Captain Kirk says, well, okay, I want to do this. And once he makes a decision, off you go. Yeah? You have to be strong, you have to be bold. It was talked about earlier, you gotta have some balls, yeah, to be an entrepreneur. Yeah, so grow a pair.
So it's fine. We can pitch mentors against one another, right?
Huh? Look, mentors, they'll disagree. At the end of the day,
Here.
at the end of the day, look, the entrepreneur makes the decision. As I said, Gandalf the Grey, he helps people out, but he empowers Frodo to destroy the ring, right? So it's the job of the mentor to empower the mentee. And quite honestly, if the mentor does not empower, then you have some problems there. Okay. Find a different mentor.
What about you, Colin? Can we hear from you about this?
Well, maybe I think the board of advisors will work there if you've got 5 different mentors. I think you can only have one mentor in the sense of the emotional connection. I mean, I think if I look in my life, the people that have groomed me and helped me, I've had that emotional connection with, and they've driven me to great things because they understand more about me. You can get a board of advisors giving you advice on all different things. Scotty would tell you about engineering, Uhura would tell you about communication, Dr. Spock would be, objectively telling you about certain other things. And you can choose. But the one that you emotionally connect with might be the one that guides you in the direction the strongest. I don't know if that's the case for you, but I feel mentoring is a more emotive state.
But Colin, I mean, have you had multiple mentors in your life?
Yes.
Yeah.
3, but sequentially.
Well, sequentially. Fair
So
enough.
what, does one expire? Oh, you're old.
Only because I moved from the UK to Singapore, but you know what I mean.
Okay. Now, Nicholas, what about you? We have a little bit more time.
My own experience that my mentors came sequentially too, just like Colin, except that they don't expire, they just continue. I just get one, and I get a second one, and I get a third one, and the third one now is my godmother. So the thing is, I don't think it's impossible to get multiple, but the basis is that do you have the bandwidth to go and handle so many? It's like I see some people who are actually mentor whores. They actually just keep getting more and more mentors. I'm not kidding. They just say, oh, look at my board of advisors. We got like 15 people on the board of advisors. I got 5 mentors. And I said, okay, have you started up yet? No. So I said, when are you going to start up? I said, oh, when I actually get to go and do my pitch book. I said, when will that? Oh, when I get another 3 more mentors. And that happens, you see. And the thing is that, are you caught up in the craze to just say, I got a mentor, I got a board advisor? Or are you going to say that, look, I'm just going to get my startup done, and this guy, Colin, is able to help me do something or give me some advice, which will greatly help me, and I may need something from Nati also. So I might ask both of them, because you know what you want to get from them, right? This is about optimizing your mentor, so you're not going to get what you get from them, so get them. But don't just keep saying, I must have more and more and more. Get what's needed, and you're done.
It's not a vanity matrix to have many, many mentors.
Okay, so it's like get the mentors that you need.
Yeah, get what you need. Exactly, get what you need.
Okay.
So thank you. I hope that answers your questions, and we're like
Yeah,
time.
yes.
Oh, there. Okay. So I know you guys have a lot of questions, and it's really, really good. Maybe after this, you can meet these mentors outside. Grab
maybe
them,
outside.
ask them as many questions as you want. For now, that's all the time we have, and we do have a token of appreciation for all these people. So can we give a round of applause first?